the site is set up to convert, it's going to make all of the money that you invest and time you invest into marketing give you a bigger ROI.
Well, super excited to have Katlyn back. Welcome, Katlyn.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back.
Well, you're the creative director of Katlyn Slocum Design. And just a quick background, it's kind of funny. I'm trying to remember how it came up, but I think you had reached out to me like, hey, Brad, fan of the podcast, would love to come on. And what's interesting is I get pitched quite often. I mean, a lot of people are, whether, not saying you did this, but, a lot of people hire a PR agency and they're trying to get their brand out there and voice and, on different platforms and stuff. And so you get a lot of these inquiries, and I don't remember why it stuck out, but however you presented it, because this is going on a couple of years now. It's been a while. I'm just like, this is gonna be a really good topic. I need to get Katlyn on. So
yeah, I did reach out myself, not a PR agency. Right. I see the value in that for sure. But yeah, kind of funny story is after you had worked with me, which was after the podcast, you kind of got me into the world of basically doing web design for custom home builders. Mm-hmm. Before it was, I specialized in, I would say blue collar. I didn't grow up in like a building household per se, but all of my family members owned businesses in the trades. So like my stepdad was a roofer. My dad was in HVAC. My papa owned a auto mechanic shop for decades. So that was kind of the nature of who I worked with. And then it transformed into home builders after seeing, your stunning homes and working with those types of websites. And it's been a really fun journey since then.
Well, it's funny because I wanted to get into that too, is that when I brought you on, had no intention of rebuilding my website.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was
had no intention of working with you either.
Yeah. And I know that wasn't the play. And then after I'm like, Katlyn, actually, I've been thinking about this and, I know we talked about this. I think just the way you presented it and the way you communicated and your experience, I was very impressed. And I'm like, and then it was kind of nice to have like your perspective on, I think you had, I mean, just to be candid, I know a lot of people have hired you because of my recommendations and because I'm like, 100%. She's phenomenal, like so good. Like it was just, and where I'll give you some credit is fast forward a couple of years, in my Builder 20, there's a company out of LA doing some SEO work. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we really like this company. They do a great job and they're very involved. And when the company called me, because a lot of times, as they're looking at, for me as a potential customer, they want to do the research to understand who my audience base is, who I'm selling to, how to create the SEO. And oftentimes this company is like, we have to rebuild the website and the messaging because we got to make sure that if you're going to drive people to the site, that it's actually functioning and it looks right. And they said, Brad, without question, every single builder that we've worked with, we have to do alterations to the website. We don't have any recommendations for you. So
that's amazing. Man, what a testimonial.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty cool. It's cool for you, Katlyn, because I'm like, this is a legit like big company out of LA and they didn't do one change to the website. They're like, nope, Katlyn did a phenomenal job. Like there's nothing to change.
That is awesome to hear. Cause that normally does come up and I let the experts be the experts. And there are often things that need to be done as far as SEO when it comes to changes to design and things like that. So that's incredible that they didn't have any changes because it usually does come with at least something. So that's super cool.
Well, I know you're balancing, kids, like, and work and, business is exploding. You're coming on now because we've actually had you, I wanted to bring you on just as far as a follow-up to, we re-engage you to kind of work on our website. And again, with the SEO company, there's some changes they made and we hired you to come through and just kind of work in collaboration with them.
Right.
So walk through just maybe business today to where it was, things you've learned, what's changed, things you're really targeting with companies such as myself and what other companies should be looking at, as they're continuing to refine their marketing strategies.
Yeah. What a big question. Yeah. So business today compared to, I guess, 3 years ago when we worked together, still juggling mom, life, and work. But with that has come some fun challenges. I work with a business coach who's incredible. And every single year, we're setting goals and we're better aligning my business and my schedule to give me that balance that I'm looking for. Hard launch. I just found out I'm pregnant with my fourth. Wow. So with each, I think when we were together, I had two, yes. Like I had one last year and now I'm pregnant with another one. So wow. So every time these things happen. Oh, and then we relocated. So I was in Washington and our family moved cross country. We're in Cincinnati, Ohio now.
Moved to
so
Ohio.
Just like, Yeah, lots of big changes. But yeah, having that team of people that helps me look at the big picture stuff of like, what do you want your life to look like when it comes to business and life and family and all that stuff, and designing my business around, what I want my family life and personal life to look like has been really valuable. Since working with you, you have such a big reach. I would say 99% of the people in my inbox who do inquire are custom home builders, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. It's allowed me to transition out of like blue collar in general and more into that space. You guys have your own types of clients, you have your own needs and pain points and hurdles and like things like that. And so I feel like in the last few years, I've really gotten an understanding of what custom home builders need in a website. And really making it strategic to hit on certain goals, whether it's attracting higher end projects or increasing, the amount of leads that you get from your website, or, advancing into new markets, things like that. We take a really personalized approach to what that specific builder might need and what their goals might be. I don't know. It's been a crazy journey, but so fun. I've really, really enjoyed working in this space. And then this last year I sponsored and went to the Build Her retreat in Costa Rica with Morgan and her crew. And that was really cool. I kind of got to be I spoke there, but I kind of got to be just a fly on the wall and listen to presentations and really get to see more of the insides of what builders, deal with on a day-to-day basis, client experience, pricing, all that kind of stuff. And just since we've worked together, I'm always trying to figure out ways to learn more about the industry, learn more about my profession and how I can better serve my clients and get my clients better results. And one of the reasons I reached out to you to fix some things on your website is like, I've learned a lot since we worked together 3 years ago. And I'm like, I should have optimized this. And with that new knowledge just comes new opportunities for my next clients to do things better. So I don't know, continuing to learn and grow both on the home builder side and taking that into my web design business and doing better for my clients.
Here's where I'll give you some credit, Katlyn. And, it took me a little while to figure this out in my career. And part of the reason I started the podcast is, I think there's a lot to run in a construction company, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's no doubt that whether it's networking, Builder 20, industry events, where it's very important to understand the ins and outs of running a luxury building company, hiring, payroll, WIP, how to be financially stable. However, I found so much value, attending design camp with interior designers and being around the design community, right? Being around architects, being around people in the auto industry. A lot of my clients are very successful entrepreneurs. And I feel very fortunate that so many of them are willing to mentor. And like I have a client right now, and he's incredible. Like he's in, pickleball, he has a franchise and they're taken the country by storm. He's like very successful on what he's done in his plan, and they've totally blown up. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because he's like, hey, Brad, I want to meet. And so, I get to pick his brain on how he's scaled his business and what that looks like and challenges that he's dealing with, whether it be legal or as you expand, other pitfalls you may not be aware of. And so the point being is, I'm sure when you went to the Build Her retreat, and I know you're coming to the Coalition Summit in Chicago, this fall, is that you get to see behind the scenes of what we deal with. And what that does, it allows you more understanding of how you can sell your product to us, and not just from a sales perspective, but you really understand maybe my pain points. And you're like, okay, well, how do we address this to the customer to present that in a way that they're attracted to your brand?
Exactly. And there's things that come up that I'm like, I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know how many people say this, but there was definitely some things that I could see where it was like, the website could help solve for this. Or one of the topics that came up at Build Her, not even just like website related, but one thing that I haven't had to deal with, like running a construction business is obviously very different. I talked to my husband about this because I sometimes encourage him to start, he's an electrician, a journeyman electrician. I sometimes encourage him to start his own thing. He's less of a risk taker. And just in general, it's different than me running an online business. There's less overhead. I've never hired anybody. I mean, I have contractors, but I don't have employees. And one of the conversations that came up at Build Her was there was this need for almost all these ladies to have employees to help them run the day-to-day of the business, whether like mostly admin stuff. There's so many of us who are still doing so many things in the business, and it hinders your growth. And I felt like I could connect with that because I run this online business. It's just been me, and I have contractors. But again, now that I'm thinking about, okay, I'm about to have my 4th kid next year, and I need to be more the CEO of my business. What does that look like? And it can be a scary risk to hire. But at the same time, the reward of that and the time you get back, and the freedom you get to be really the CEO, and like seeing like the higher level aspects of your company is so invaluable. And so I don't know, I like that you kind of transitioned your podcast from construction specific to like more entrepreneurs, because across any industry, there's going to be similar pain points like that, where I haven't had to deal with hiring and it's always scared me. And there was that similar sentiment with a lot of the ladies there. But then we left, and like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them hired admins. I'm planning on hiring one at the end of the year. And it's really cool to see that there's still common struggles or fears, like no matter what the industry is. So yeah.
It is. It's hard to scale. And it's like, and really at the core, and maybe the analogy here is like, as you think about scaling, there's different reasons. A lot of times, just because you scale doesn't mean you're gonna be more profitable, right? It comes with other complexities. It comes with other frustrations. And that was something I was speaking to, my client Ace, who owns Pickleball Kingdom. He's like, we've expanded, like we're going to go global. And, it's not for the faint of heart, because there's a lot of challenges that come with that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same token, in some ways you're kind of stretched from a time perspective, and in some ways you can buy back your time, by hiring. And as you're mentioning, as you're hiring an assistant or you're hiring different people, there's a cost to that. Someone you have to manage, but at the same time, you can buy your time back to focus on things that either may be personal or visionary or whatever that may be. But where I'll give you some credit with the consultants, and back to the brand and the website, is one of the things that I really struggle with my website is we are fortunate in a way from our social media presence and website that we were getting leads and we're getting a lot of inquiries, but none of them are the right fit. I should say none. A lot of them were not the right fit, right? And you're trying to really, as you mentioned earlier in this episode, you're trying to cater your brand and marketing strategy to the ideal client. And there is a budget for the ideal client that aligns with our brand and how we're structured and the size of my firm. And what was happening is I was getting a lot of leads. Hey, Brad, can you do a backsplash? Hey, Brad, can you do this powder bath?
Can you do my bathroom? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that these are bad projects. It's not that these clients need help, but it's just,
they're not for you.
They're not for me. And the reason is the way we're structured, and with, the way our management structure is, it's not really beneficial for the client either, because of the cost to supervision. Right. And so you had worked with me saying, okay, Brad, let's create a minimum square foot. So as they come in, they have to just, and I'll tell you what, since you built my website, if you just look at overall leads, came drastically down. I'm talking way down. But the ones that were always filtered through were the actual ones that I want to email and call back. And so I didn't, from like a business development backlog perspective, it didn't change. If anything, got better. But I wasn't spending a ton of time filtering through, things that I was in the past.
That gets me really excited because for some businesses, when they're getting no leads from their website, it's like any leads is better than none. So again, that's like that company's issue and goal. But for a lot of the people I work with, a really common theme I see when I ask them what some of the pain points are is like, we're attracting the wrong clients. We have too many inquiries coming in for projects we don't want to do. And that's a natural progression of like, as your business grows, and you're kind of rebranding in a way, like you started here and you're looking to go there. That's a really common thing I see. I just worked with an outdoor living contractor in Pennsylvania. He had partnered with an SEO company, and they were doing their SEO thing. They were adding tons of really good content to the website to drive more traffic to his site. And when I actually got on the consult call with him and I said, okay, what services do you offer currently? Do you want to keep offering those same services? Are you like looking to attract something else? He did decks and patios, but specifically he was very clear. I want to be doing full scale, like outdoor living projects, deck, patio, like the whole space. And I asked, because he had this whole drop down list of services on his website. I was like, okay, well, here it says you do commercial decks, deck repair, deck lighting. It was like, 10 different service pages. He's like, I don't do any of that. And so all this traffic the SEO company was driving to his website for projects he didn't want to do. So then he's getting leads he doesn't want. Sure, he's got great traffic and probably plenty of inquiries, but all of them are the wrong fit. So I told him, I said, it's really good that you have a clear vision of what you want. You will take a hit in traffic. You will not get as many leads after we get this website done. But the whole point is, that's fine. I just want the right types of leads coming in. And so it's okay if you're not getting more leads or if you're getting less traffic. I've had that happen with a few clients now, but that was their goal. They said, that's fine. We just want the right types of projects, because in the end, you want the ones that you're passionate about doing, that are profitable, and that'll take your business to where you're looking to go. And so that's why it's different for every single business, because some do want, as many leads as possible. They don't really care what they are. And others are like, no, we want this. Like I remember with you, you did commercial and residential, and we had different services that were on your old site. And I said, what do you want the main focus to be? And you said high-end luxury residential. And we still have some of your commercial projects on the site and things like that, but it's like way in the background. And all the marketing messaging that we worked with and the copy that's on the site is aimed at that luxury residential client. So I'm glad to hear that that's been going well. And that your leads are less, because it saves you time on the back end.
Saves us a lot of time, and it's the right lead. It's, going back to that, as you came back to the website and you're like, hey, Brad, there's some things I want to look at. I know something you pointed out is, and part of this is on us, right? It's the messaging. There are a lot of projects that may be good photography, but again, it probably didn't line up where our company is today. And so you're like, hey, Brad, you send me an email. You're like, look at these projects. I think you should weed these out. You should take them out. And, maybe it's a quality over quantity. Maybe it's, hey, make sure we have the right projects for the right people, and kind of went through that. Walk through just as, I think it's hard for, for a lot of us builders, because it's our baby. And so we're like, oh, this project's really special because the client is amazing.
You have a connection with all of them. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So my reason for approaching you with those, and that was kind of towards the end of some of the rework I was doing, but it twofold. So one of the reasons, and something that, again, even in the last year or two, when clients submit me content, I've started asking them to limit me how many projects they send, because from a user perspective, if you have every single project you've ever done on your site, like it's just information overload, and they will spend forever just flipping through pictures and never get to like the main goal, which is having them, fill out an inquiry form. Quality over quantity is definitely like a real thing. I would recommend having 6 to 10 projects on your site at any given time. And anything past that is just like, it's too much. I had to do it with my own site. But then on the other hand, a lot of your projects were remodels. And I remember when we were designing your site a few years ago, it maybe made sense to have some of those on there. But again, you've done so many awesome projects since then. It's like, let's display more of what you want to attract. So that project blow your mind, and like these big projects that you're doing that you want to do more of, what you put out there is what you're going to bring more in. So there wasn't really any need to put in, in my opinion, the remodels or as many of the commercial projects, because again, your focus is those really high-end residential projects. So let's showcase some of your favorite work there, and people can really see the scale of what you can do. And again, you bring in more clients at the caliber that you want to be working with.
I love that. And something that I really loved is, going back to this, you mentioned the consultants, is, something that I know I struggle with website 1.0 is we had some photography and we had some information, and, ended up linking the podcast and some other things to it, but there wasn't really, I don't want to say value, but there wasn't something for the user to come on. And I know you worked with Paul, and you're like, hey, Brad, I think you should speak with Paul, because something about your website is really create a story, right? And as you go to my website, and again, this seems like a sales pitch for Katlyn, but it should be. but the thing is, like, you go to my website, and the reason I bring it up is because this goes back to like the networking. Through networking, Mark Williams came on years ago. He started his own podcast, The Curious Builder, and then he started the Curious Builder Collective, where in Atlanta and here in Phoenix and in Minneapolis and other parts of the country, San Antonio, we're creating these once a quarter meeting with builders. And so like here in Phoenix, we just had one last week, and we had 30 builders come, and we speak about marketing. And what's interesting is as you think about that brand, one of the builders that came to the meetings, like, hey, Brad, check out this brochure I have. He said, please don't think it's an exact copy, but it's similar to like what's on your website. And he's like, I wanted to give this out to, customers to speak about the build process and being a guide and what they should understand coming into it and how we play a role in that. And that's really what's Paul's strategy. He's like, hey, with Katlyn, we want to make sure that we have something they can download and take home so that you're pushing the ideal client, but they do have a take home. There's something to value so that they come in more educated. And I felt that was really good in the sense that we have something that they could take home and study that's part of the messaging as well.
Mm-hmm. It keeps you on the top of their mind. When you're working, especially with like luxury clientele, I'm sure a lot are, ready to go, cash in hand, but there are still plenty of people who come across you who maybe years out, or maybe a colder audience just landed on you and they don't know anything about you. So having something like a free download, or call them lead generators, is a great way to capture emails. And a lot of people are kind of scared to do that because we've all downloaded something and given our email up, and then we get, these emails back, and we can all be really annoyed with that. But the data and statistics on email marketing is it's the most effective form of digital marketing there is. And so if you use that space to just kind of introduce those colder audiences to who you are, you're offering something of value already. You're keeping your company name at the top of their minds when it comes to anything building related or anything in the industry, because you've provided them with something that was a helpful tool for them. It's a great strategy for kind of warming up those leads over time. Even if they never become clients, there's still a good chance that some of them might, and you never know where that might lead. And so it's a fairly easy and inexpensive way of just getting something together, collecting those emails, and then, nurturing them, introducing them to you, your team, your process, like what you do, maybe demystifying some of the myths about custom home building, or giving tips on, how to choose a builder or what to look out for and things like that. People are going to unsubscribe, but a lot of people will value the content, and you never know what it could turn into in the future. So it's a really valuable marketing technique and something that can be utilized on the website to prime those colder audiences.
So advice for a small builder? They're starting out. They may not be in a position where it's like, okay, I've had my website running. We've been up and running. I'm at a point in my career where I'm like, okay, Katlyn, I want to look at rebranding. Someone starting out, there's cost to build a website. Should they focus on the website or SEO? Like, especially where they're trying to get job leads and they're trying to, start from scratch.
Oh man, both. That's like, and I'm not trying to cheat with that answer. The reason why I say that is, I a lot of times come across people who they're doing all the marketing things. So they're posting a lot on social. They're maybe running print ads. They have their job signage out. They're investing thousands of dollars a month on SEO companies. They're driving all this traffic to the website. If the website itself is not set up to convert any of that, then your marketing dollars are just wasted. At the very bare minimum, you want to make sure that your website has a good user experience. It's not, cluttered with a ton of information that's going to overwhelm them. My design style in general is more minimalistic, which isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, but in general, like keeping it simple, getting people the information that they need, which is usually like a little bit about your process, a little backstory on your company, some examples of your work, and making sure that there's clear calls to action throughout the site. You're guiding people to the main thing you want them to do, which is to fill out an inquiry form. The site is set up to convert. It's going to make all of the money that you invest and time you invest into marketing give you a bigger ROI. The thing that we want to avoid is spending all this money getting people to your site, and then the site is just like a leaky bucket and all those potential leads are dropping through. So I'm trying not to give a cheat answer, but it really is both. I would say having a website that's optimized to convert before like fully gung-ho on, spending a ton of money on marketing is going to get you more in the long run.
So when you look at converting, I mean, I think there's a few things. Is this really, as they're going through the questionnaire or doing the inquiry, I mean, attention on the page, like what are some things that people need to look at just from a simplicity that help people, convert from that first website visit?
Yeah, so I would say for every industry, but specifically if we're talking about builders, and especially luxury builders, when it comes to people's homes, they're investing a lot of money into doing this. It's not like they're just going to the store and buying a bottle of shampoo, which people do research on their shampoo. So if they're investing like millions of dollars or hundreds of $1,000s on a house, there's a lot of information they're looking for. There's a lot of touch points that need to happen. They may go to your website, then your social, and then your website again, and then, find you in a bunch of different places before they ever take action. But on your website, there's consistent, like crucial information that every builder needs to have. Things like your process, and you don't have to outline like, consult, pre-construction, and then like bullet point all the things that happens in each phase. You want to keep it really bite-sized for the user because you don't want to overwhelm them on your website with like all that's going to go into the build process. So keeping it really kind of a bird's eye view, consultation, planning, design, move in or whatever, just like really simple. Frequently asked questions. This is good for the user, but also for SEO. Like, what are common questions that people ask, like that you answer over and over again, whether on a consult call or through the process? How much does it cost to build a home? Whatever goes into that. Frequently asked questions, your work, and again, showcasing professional photos of your best work. Pictures, are worth 1,000 words. And so showing people what you're capable of and displaying more of the projects you want to attract. I'm trying to think of what else. Those are kind of the key things that people need to see. And then when it comes to the actual design of the website, something that I see a lot of times that are, I would say, like user experience killers is, first, if you have a top navigation that has more than 5 links in it is like the best practice. That is like giving somebody, I say, a Cheesecake Factory menu. It's information overload. They're gonna be lost on your site. They're going to have decision fatigue. They don't really know where to go to get their information. So keeping it simple, like here's our about page. Here's a page about our process that outlines, and you can have one for each service if you do like custom homes and remodeling. Here's our portfolio and here's our contact page. Like keep it really simple. The footer can be like the bonus bar for all your extra links. People know to kind of go to the footer when they need extra information on pretty much any website. And then another thing is really clear call to action. So make sure your buttons are prominent, that they are contrasting against whatever the background color is. They're very easy to see, and they're in every section throughout the site, and keep driving them to that contact page. The goal is like, no matter where people land on your site, you want it to make it really easy for them to get in touch with you. And if I can pick on you a little bit, your last site, I remember, the contact page was hidden in like a drop down. It wasn't even like in the corner, like where you could see it. You had to like hover over a drop down and find the contact button. So even just little things like that, like making your contact button very easy to see from wherever they are on the site, are like some really simple, website strategies you can apply to just get people. The whole point is to get people the information they need to make a decision, which is to, start that first conversation. So
yeah, I was going to ask you some of like the don'ts. And what's interesting, I mean, you alluded to it right there that, even as you were saying them all, that makes sense, because if the contact is just a direct link and you click on it and you're there, okay, well, that makes it user friendly for them to go in and fill out their information. But if they go to drop down and then sometimes the mouse or cursor isn't working and, or they have to find it, I mean, you're trying to make it easy. As you are exploring someone who's reaching out to you and you're looking at their website, what are some of those items that really stick out to you? You're like, okay, we need to change this one right away.
Yeah, I would say the navigation is usually a large one. I'm trying to think of what some other common ones are. A lot of times too, what I run into is aesthetic things. So for example, I'll have somebody come to me who's been building, luxury homes for 30 years, and they have amazing work. One of my clients right now, their social media, they have gorgeous photos and that kind of stuff. And then you go to their website and it's like, this looks like this builder just started like a year ago. There's not a match in the quality of work you do and then what your digital presence is. That's something that I see a lot where it's like, if you want to be attracting luxury clientele, you have to have a luxury presence. That's going to be what they're expecting. And that is a major part of that trust factor. Like if you're not even going to put the time and the effort into making sure that your online presence has the quality of work that you do, there's just a disconnect there with users of, you know, if these images look grainy or this site looks outdated, you know, are their business practices outdated? Are, you know, their systems and processes, like what is this really going to be like working with this builder? And so oftentimes that's like a really big indicator too that prevents them from reaching the type of clients they want to reach, is just like mirroring who you want to be, you know, bringing in.
How have you bettered your business in this sense? Because I know we've been speaking a lot about the websites and maybe my business, but for you, it's similar in a way to maybe how a designer looks at a project. They have to understand the amount of time they're going to put in, right? So they can get back your quote, because you have to track your hours and time and commitment, just like all of us. I mean, I have to do that in a way when building a home. You know, attorneys have to do that. You know, so when you're putting together a price, because you're not like billing me hourly, you're saying, hey, Brad, here's a package price and here's what I'm going to do. How have you gotten better to understand the time commitment it's going to take for you and the amount of work it's going to take, depending on what their need is, to make sure that it's a good value for the client, but at the same time beneficial for you financially?
Yeah, that's such a good question. That's definitely been a lot of trial and error, and something that I've worked with my business coach on specifically. I apply, because I have a digital business too, and there's not necessarily hard costs associated with it. It is much of a time cost. I do what's called value-based pricing. So when I'm talking to my clients and we're setting goals, and I'm estimating certain results, like let's say, you know, for one of my clients in Delaware, they build luxury oceanfront homes. One of their goals was like, if the website will bring us one new home a year, that'll, you know, be more the investment. It'll bring us a profit of about $350K. My pricing is pretty much based on a percentage of the value that I'm bringing and the ROI that I'm bringing to the project. And over time, I do struggle with time, because I'm one of those people who I will just do extra things for free without billing it, because I always want to make sure that I'm serving the client. And so I've had to get better of saying, you know, no, this is what is included. Anything outside of that, I'm happy to provide you, you know, a quote. But that's been a learning process for me, and something that I still struggle with, again, because it's not like I'm going out and purchasing something like that. Really, my time is the payment. So yeah, still a work in progress, but I have definitely worked with my coach on figuring out, okay, what's the estimated amount of time this takes and energy? How much am I doing? And now that I'm bringing on contractors to, in my opinion, do things that they're better at, I have to factor in, okay, how much is it going to cost to pay them for what they're doing? How much do I charge on top of that as kind of like a project manager? And this comes back to like when I was at Build Her and we're talking about how to price projects, and some people do, you know, fixed price, variable price. Like I'm still in the middle of figuring out what is the best way to do all this. And as I add people to my team, I have to like factor in all those things and still make sure that the strategy part of my side and the project management of what I'm bringing into the table is factored in. So it's definitely a work in progress. I think I'm getting better and feeling more comfortable with where I'm at. My business has been profitable, so I haven't had issues with profitability, but it definitely has changed in the last few years with my time, like how much time I'm exerting into any given project. So hopefully that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, and then to your point, as you are hiring and you're contracting, you know, working that out, you know, you're speaking of burden rates. You have to understand, well, I have to pay this employee X dollars. I'm guessing it's going to take me this amount of time. I have to add, you know, and it is different if it's 1099 or if they're actually an employee under you, and you have to now figure out taxes and overhead and health insurance and all that.
Yeah, and timelines too. Like before, I was pretty flexible. If a client was late on getting me content that I needed to start the site. I think I've only ever charged a late fee one time. Well, now that I have contractors, not because only one client was late, only because I enforced it one time.
Right.
But now that I have contractors under me and they have marked time out of their schedule to do a design or whatever it might be. Well, now if that client's late, I can't be like, oh, it's okay because it's just me. It's other people's time and schedule and livelihood too. So now there's new challenges that I'm realizing like, okay, even though they're a contractor, I'm still responsible for these people and for upholding my end of the contract so it doesn't harm people other than me. And so, yeah, I haven't experienced any issues with that yet because that's relatively new, but it's something in the back of my mind of like, oh, I need to really keep to a strict enforcement of this because it affects other people than me just now.
So when you mention, you're thinking about as you're tracking this stuff, do you do autopsies? Do you track it? Like, do you ever go back and look at what you bid on a project, the hours spent to have a good idea of how you're going to change that moving forward?
My coach tells me to every time. And I don't know if I've ever tracked my time on a project yet. I need to, because I know it's more than I think it is.
Yeah.
Like when I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad, but I know it's much more than I think it is. And she constantly is reminding me to track my time. And especially with like my different types of projects, I do in builder terms, I have spec sites and custom sites. And there's a lot more time that I put in personally to the custom site because there's much more strategy work and things involved. But no, that's a good admonition to do it. Because I know you guys have to do that too.
Well, it's funny because to your point, I mean, it's a lot of work, right? And you have to actually go back and
it's a lot of work and a lot of time.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And it's like one of those things where you're like, hey, instead of me just tracking things to track them, I could actually be working and generate revenue and bring it in. And so it's kind of a catch-22.
Catch-22, yeah.
I can relate as a business owner. And it's funny because, what most of my team is salary and they keep time cards and they're like, why are we keeping time cards? And, there's a lot of ins and outs about that, about, cost plus and other things. But, there's a lot of times just being open. We failed to go back and look at the data and be like, why did this house take longer than it should have?
Right.
What are the elements that led to that? And we try to do a good job, but I have found probably like you, it's like, okay, when we do it, it's like, okay, this makes sense. And I can see the value because it helps us track for the future. But it's definitely one of those things that are probably lower on the totem pole as far as really excited about my day to go,
go track time.
Yeah.
And analyze that data.
Yeah. And I'm sure just in fairness, maybe you can relate, Katlyn, maybe you've had a project like this, but sometimes we have these projects that cost us a lot of grief and pain for a lot of reasons. And it's like, I don't know if I really want to go and open up that, open up those wounds again and, feel the PTSD of that project. So.
Yeah. To that point, it does give more insights into one thing that I do try to do is when I look back on projects, it's like, was this a project I really enjoyed? And if not, why? And use this as kind of, not because the person was a red flag or anything like that, but you can kind of pick up on, even when I'm doing email communication at the very beginning, maybe when the proposal's being sent or whatever, if they're already kind of like delayed in getting back to me or giving me very minimal information, it's like, I know this person is probably going to be delayed getting me content. They're going to be delayed giving me any revisions. This project's going to drag on so anyway, it helps you pick up on like when you're actually looking at that data of, will this next project probably be like this as well, and help you better choose the projects you want in your pipeline for sure.
So you mentioned, deliverables you had to enforce at one time because someone's late. As if I'm looking at, hiring you, what are some things I should be prepared of, from deliverables?
Yeah. And that's something, like I lay out the framework and I have a very clear process for my clients, but a lot of times just because they don't know what to expect, certain things can take longer. And I've tried to bring in more partners to alleviate, they invest more, but they're alleviating more of that burden. So it's very minimal information that I have to get from them. But if you're preparing for a website project, just like doing, a contractor's doing a home build, it's like we have to get all the materials together first before we start building the foundation and building the house. So when it comes to a website, things like quality photos. Normally, most of the builders that I'm working with are doing a pretty good job of, they have a professional photographer, and photographers are good at giving you both, web-sized images and high-resolution images. So that helps for SEO for me to have both of those. Written content is where a lot of the contractors get held up, because you guys have very busy jobs and you're overseeing other people, and to expect you to write all the website copy, it's just not your skill set, and that's okay. It's not my skill set either. I didn't write the words that are on my website. But a lot of people think that web designers should also do that, but they're very different trades. My area of expertise is that website strategy and making sure we're optimizing the site to be as effective as possible. Wordsmithing and creating compelling, words and copy that goes on the website. It's a profession all in its own. And I have people on my team like Paul, who worked with you, who specialize in that I really try to sell to every single person I work with, because I know that trying to do it on your own does take so much time and an unanticipated amount of time. It's really hard for anybody. So, copywriting is something to be thinking about. We have to have words to put on your site. And, in the best case scenario, we have words that are actually compelling and they're engaging and they add to the ROI that the site brings. So that's another thing. Team photos. I have one of the reasons my projects get delayed is because team photos don't start getting taken until like I'm in the middle of a website. So a lot of times, like right now, I have 2 sites I'm waiting on. It's been done forever and I'm just waiting on team photos to add. So having the professional headshots and like, big, picture of your team together is really valuable to have on the site. Again, people are investing a lot of money, and being able to see the faces behind the company and like who they're going to be working with, it helps build that trust. And you can repurpose it and use it on social. And it's just really valuable to have that too. And then branding. So recently, as of January of this year, I made it a requirement that people working with me have to have had professional branding done. And if they haven't, we include it in our packages now. But the branding really is the foundation of your story and that visual presence. I cannot build a website with just a logo. I don't have colors to go off of. I don't have the fonts that are made to attract that ideal client. And again, branding is a skill and a trade all on its own. And it's designed to really like stay true to who you are as a company, but then in turn also attract who you want to attract. And how the branding is designed is to do just that. And so it does lay the foundation for me as far as like the visual framework of the site. So branding is really important as well. Those are kind of the key materials, if you will, for a website project that need to be considered. But copy is normally the one that gets people. It takes a really long time if you're doing that by yourself, even with my tools.
So, as you think about, I mean, you brought up the text, right? We all need text. We need bios. We need other information about the company. Yep. Now since I built my website, I mean, ChatGPT is a huge thing. What do you recommend to your customers? Are they penalized by using ChatGPT, by putting it out there? Should they be cautious? Should they use it just to give them a template and then rewrite in their own words? I mean, how does that play a role just as far as SEO and benefit of the company?
You definitely have to be careful how you use it. So ChatGPT and AI is a really, really great tool. And I think that moving forward in college and things like that, it's going to be taught as like, okay, how to use this tool as a human to make it the most effective for anything. So for ChatGPT, one of the resources I actually give my clients if they're writing their own copy is a custom GPT that was created by a web designer, one of my colleagues, and she made it specifically for generating website copy. And how it works is you're putting in your company info, you're putting in your brand voice, you're putting in your values. It's really getting specific to your business before it starts shooting out any copy. And then you can, of course, update it from there. But just like anything with AI, you have to double check it. I use ChatGPT and AI when I'm doing market research and competitor analysis, but I have to go back and recheck the data. You can't take it at face value. You really do need to, it has to be gone through with a human eye still and human reasoning. If you're just putting something in there, like write me homepage copy, I'm a custom home builder, that is going to generate copy that is probably somewhere else on the web, and SEO is going to look at that negatively because it's seen as duplicate copy. The search engines and things like that are very savvy to know if something's just like completely, copied or AI generated. Now AI is looking at your website and your the copy that's going on your website and now generating search results. As we've seen, we can see like the AI response and things like that. And it can be a really cool tool to populate and search engines in an AI if you have, that valuable content on your site. So I'm not against using ChatGPT or AI to help start that process, but you definitely can't just like copy paste the first thing that you put in there. It has to be refined. And I will always say, it shouldn't be used in replacement of a copywriter, because the copywriter is really going to dig into the heart and soul of your business, what your goals are. Like, again, keep that strategy in mind and then put something together that is human and that reflects like where you're looking to go and something that really resonates. So I think it can be used as a great tool, but I'm always going to defer to a human copywriter to craft that really compelling copy.
Well, it's fascinating. I mean, you bring up the copyright issue, and maybe not even from like a financial penalty, but the penalty of SEO, because AI is just pulling in stuff from your industry that they already have on the web. And so if you're direct copying other websites, it makes a lot of sense.
And for a builder, like you want to be, all builders want to be different, like you have, it's a very, crowded market. There's several builders in every single market. Like Brad, you in Phoenix, you have, I don't even know how many builders are out there, but a ton. And if they all were putting into ChatGPT, like they want their website to sound like Brad's, it's like, then you're not different at all. So you want that differentiation to come out. And that's something that a professional copywriter can really help with. So you're not all sounding the same, like carbon copy builders everywhere.
Well, I know, going back to the colors, I know that's a big emphasis, something to think about, putting together palettes and just being open. I said, one of the questions, I can't remember how it came up if you asked me or I divulged it, but you were looking at, and maybe I'll give a little background here. So what's interesting is I've had clients come to me and say, Brad, the website is so important for me because if I can go, I can see the validity of the company in the back end and see how professional they are. However, if they don't have social media, I'm not going to hire them. And I thought that was interesting because they said, they're like, I go right away to their Instagram as well. And if they don't have an Instagram or they don't engage or it doesn't match the website, then I already know that they're probably not a fit for me. And it's really high inclined. I thought that was interesting because there's this crossover between the two. And you had asked me, and this had came up as we were thinking about how to build a website and the color palette and the back end, who the ideal client was. And I know it came up where, okay, if you look at your followers, how many are male and how many are female, right? Because that really is, and who's a decision maker in the household. And, and I will say a lot of times, that lead is generated from the female side who follow our page and they're ready to build. And so you're kind of marketing to that, to that clientele, and the colors play a role in that. And so I just thought it was very interesting how you pulled information out of my social media and brought that into the website and then the crossover between the two to make sure that they mirror.
Yeah. It's really helpful. It can almost seem counterintuitive because when we're thinking about our company, like we're thinking about us. So I'm Brad. This is what I like. This is what my branding's going to be. But you have to approach your brand as like, who's consuming your brand? And that is who you cater your brand to. So, for my business, even when I first started, and again, I was marketing to blue collar. It's not that my personality wasn't still in it, but my logo, my website, my brand colors, everything was geared towards male, and not just males, but like blue collar business owners. And that demographic is even different than the custom home builders I work with now, because all my blue collar guys, they were like in the dirt every day. They're still like on the job site and they're pouring the concrete and they're hammering, like they're how they run their business is like very different. And now I'm working with custom home builders who are, the CEOs of their business, they're overseeing teams. Like they're just at a different place. And so marketing to them is going to be different than marketing to my blue collar bros, who are, on the job every day doing the actual like grunt labor. And so my brand was still like fun and my personality, but it was very, very catered to that audience. So a lot of times, we can get in the way of our own branding by being like, well, I don't really like that. Well, if your ideal client responds to that, then maybe we should rethink this. And again, you don't want to remove yourself fully from your brand. You still want elements of your story and your personality there, but in a way that is attracting that ideal client. And so it's funny because I do work with the majority of like male-owned builders. And when we go through kind of it's this sheet that we kind of put on a scale, like, okay, do you want to be bold or more subtle? Do you want to be playful or serious? Do you want to be more feminine, more masculine? And a lot of the male-owned businesses, like their branding, they want leaned more towards feminine because that is who their first inquiry is. So that's who their buyer is. Right. And so, especially with things like Pinterest and stuff now, which is largely dominated by women. And it's a great place to feature your work and to attract more clients and traffic. If a lot of your traffic's coming from Pinterest, that's probably a lot of females. And so you want to just be thinking of those things when it comes to your branding. Who are these ideal clients, whether it's age, gender, what their profession is, like really getting an idea for who this person is and catering your brand to attract more of those types of people. It makes everything in your marketing so much easier. It makes what you say easier, like how you put the copy together, how you market on social media, what you're posting, things like that becomes really easy when you're clear on who that one person is that is like your ideal client.
It's funny you say that because I have a good friend of mine that came to me and it's like, Brad, I want to change your brand. Like I want to go all matte black. And it's funny because like, truth be told, like I actually have a matte black vehicle, which is kind of funny. And like, I like that, but I'm like, it's just not really like the demographic.
Go with anything else.
Yeah. I'm like, nothing I really have is matte black, and, I could understand the value, and I'd seen a website and it looked great. I mean, it looked incredible, but to your point, I mean, not even from the softness side, but there's just, I feel what I have now really mirrors to the brand, right? It really mirrors the photography. It really mirrors the projects that we're doing. It really mirrors, the warmness of what we're trying to put out there. And it really attracts that client that is looking at that. And, it's not something I totally thought about. And the reason being just website 1.0, my original logo for AFT was, it was like platinum and red, which we felt were good colors. Like it's this really good red and it's a really good like silver. And it kind of the A, the F, and the T, because the way our logo is, it looked really good with the silver and the red. But what's interesting is our logo now isn't even silver and red. Like it's totally changed to match the website. And we actually got the color blend from you that you're like, hey, Brad, I really think we should go this way. And so anyone, when they go to aftconstruction.com, they'll see the colors. And then of course our logo now matches that. So we actually changed our logo based on.
Yeah. And I was going to say, in hindsight, I would have during that time encouraged you to do the brand stuff first, because it would have we want all of it to work together. But at the time I was like, well, work with what you have. I'll put together some options that I think would be a good fit. But again, that's why I came to the realization this year after working with several people. And I was like, you know what? This is not my area of expertise. And I want to be as effective as a person as I can be for the people I'm working with. And that may mean me not inserting myself and doing things that are just not my area. Like I need to bring on the people who are experts in their field, the brand designers, the copywriters. If I try to do everything myself, I'd be doing a disservice to my clients too. It wouldn't be as effective. So, I think how it turned out is really great, and it's obviously attracting the right type of people. But yeah, it has changed how I approach projects now, where it's like, okay, we're going to bring a brand designer on board and really make sure we solidify this before I touch anything on the website, because I want to make sure that it's cohesive, it's attracting the right people, and we're just setting a good foundation there.
So what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night?
Yeah.
Does it have to be business related?
No, not at all.
Okay. What keeps me up at night right now, and we don't have to get super deep, but like I worry about my kids' future. I think when we bring up the AI conversation, I was just talking to my husband the other night, and I was like, what jobs are there even going to be for my kids when they like get to high school and college? And my husband works in the trades, and I was like, I'm gonna encourage our kids to go in the trades. And he's like, well, we can, encourage them to go to college and whatever. I was like, yeah, but I just want it to make sense for them. And I don't know, like, to me, it seems like a lot of the tech jobs and that kind of stuff, there's going to be a lot of jobs that come with AI, but there's going to be a lot of jobs that are removed. And so I do think about like what path is going to be available for my kids to make a living. And I don't know. It's just like, I'm still really young, and it's crazy to see like how much things have changed. And I genuinely just think about what the future is going to be like for my kids, honestly.
I actually love that. I think it's in some ways overwhelming. I can imagine having kids myself.
Exactly.
It's like you think about that rabbit hole, and it's, but the reality is, where I've seen, it's funny because I actually, same thing. I went to college. I have a degree in construction management. My opinion's greatly changed in the last 20 years since I was in college. And the reason being is because, to your point, like your husband, the trades, is that I see the value of the trades. I see a need for the trades. I mean, this is something that, there's only so much automation we can do. There's still hands-on. There's a lot of skilled labor that needs to happen. And, I look here, even with all these data centers being built and a lot of infrastructure.
There's one like 10 minutes away from me being built.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Big AI facilities and chip plants. And the reality is, at the core, you still need concrete, and you still need electrical, and you still need roofing. And, it's just, I have a hard time with, again, we don't need to sidetrack this podcast too much, but I really have a hard time with the amount of debt these kids are taking going to college, how expensive it is, how hard it is to find a job. And to your point, where AI is replacing some of these jobs, what does it look like where you come out with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of debt for a bachelor's degree, and now you don't have a job equivalent to that, whereas you can go into the trades and make money day one.
And that's one thing that, like, we've been really fortunate. My parents, neither one of them were super good with money, and they didn't leave us with anything. And so, I've always been a really hard worker, and like, thank God I've been able to have success with this business and stuff. So something that my husband and I are just trying to do is, like, we bought a couple investment properties, like, just kind of trying to prepare for, like, this could either be a home for my kids one day, or we can sell it and, give them something to, kind of, because I don't know what housing prices are going to look like with, like, I have young kids still that are 8 and under. And so just like trying to do at least a little bit, invest in a 529 for their schooling, invest in whatever now that we're young, that'll build over time, and just give them a little bit of a boost. Cause I have no idea what to expect when they're, 20 years down the road. So yeah, that keeps me up at night. Like, I'm sure anybody with kids, is just like an unknown future, but I'm sure exciting things will come with it. It's just so foreign and different. It's hard to like picture what that will look like. So.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. So what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I like hanging out with my friends. We bought a house here in the outskirts of Cincinnati. We have about 3 acres. So we have a lot of space for like barbecues and fun stuff like that. I like going out for, I like going to Reds games with my kids, the zoo. I like taking them to fun stuff like that. And then we like eating out. I like trying new food and having margarita, and I don't know, but we're just like hanging out with our friends most of the time. We have a lot of friends around us that have young kids, and so a lot of our time is really spent with them.
I love that. I love that. Well, for those listening, and Katlyn, again, you've been incredible. You've done a great job for us. Again, Katlyn helped us years ago. She's back again, doing more, and again on the podcast again. So where can our listeners find you?
KatlynSlocumDesign.com, or you can follow me, DM me on Instagram at Katlyn Slocum Design.
Well, thanks, Katlyn.
Thanks, Brad.